am Anna Jóna Dungal. That is my name. That is who I am. I am currently in Iceland. I moved back there at the end of last year. I'm a COVID refugee, so to speak, but I've been living in Berlin for just over 6 years at that point. And 3 of those years I attended BIMM and I studied music business there. I'm still working in the music industry, so I thought I'd just give you a little kind of CV of what it is that I've been doing both before and after I was studying. So I was 25 already when I started studying, and it was really important for me that I used the time. So basically, I'd done some music industry stuff, especially when I was a teenager. The biggest festival in Iceland is called Iceland Airwaves, and I'd done some work for them while I was in high school and college, and I'd done some event management as well. And then I moved to Berlin, and I had through some contacts that I had made throughout, volunteering at like first volunteering and then getting an actual job at the festival. I got in touch with some people before moving, and I scored an internship with a company called Sound Diplomacy. They're basically like a an intermediary between governments and the music industry, especially like city, urban planning organization, stuff like that. And the main thing that I think I will always recommend to everyone is just, be proactive and use your contacts. So already in within my first 2 months in Berlin, I'd gotten this internship where I'd met some people because they of course were working with other people. And I always made sure to get everyone's contact. I mean, it's getting easier these days because of LinkedIn. You can always connect with everyone there, or even Instagram. Just make sure to get in touch with everyone, keep their contact, get their emails, get their numbers if you can. And from there, I met two lovely women who ran one of them still runs it, and it used to be called Nordic by Nature, but it's now called Better Things. And it's a music PR agency. And for them, I did a few things throughout the years while I was working at BIMM, mostly concert production, workshop, teaching some workshops. But I also was the production manager for their one-day festival called Midsommar, and I did that for my first year at BIMM. I started that just after the new year, where I took on the job as production manager, and I was doing that while I was still at school. And again, that was also a big learning thing of just doing a lot, but also that's another opportunity where I just really made sure to make a lot of contacts and keep those contacts and add them to my roster. So some more people have joined, so that's awesome. I'm Anna Jóna Dungal, and I am calling you from Iceland. It is 5 minutes past 8 in the morning here. So basically, I started BIM when I was 25, and I really had thought about it in a way of like, okay, I'm going to give myself these 3 years to really establish myself in the music industry. If not, I'm not doing this. So I kind of tried to hit the ground running. I had, as I was saying earlier, done a bit of an internship before. So I had a few contacts. I also just was really active in, going to concerts and going to events. I know this is, of course, not an option right now, but it's more just like a general attitude. And then there was a great opportunity that showed up in, I think it was January of my first year. And this is a good example of also making sure that you're visible to the other people in school, because there was a venue that got in touch with BIMM asking about having like a singer-songwriter night somewhere at their bar. That this venue got in touch with them, and basically they had already started the lamplight sessions at BIMM, so they were like, no, we don't feel like organizing anything. But they got in touch with someone who was in the first year that was ever at BIMM. His name's Joel, and asked him whether he would be up for organizing it, and whether he'd want to get some other music business students on board. So he ended up getting in touch with me because I had, and this is again like one of those, if you just do stuff. So the head of music business for the first year, and I was so disappointed that he dropped out. He is the manager of the Kills, and that was like my favorite band when I was a teenager. So right in the beginning of my first year, we got an opportunity to go and see the Kills in Berlin, and also that we got to go backstage and meet them and everything. And there, I struck up a conversation with Joel because like I knew there were a bunch of BIMM students there. So he called me in this January for this event. Simply, and he literally said, "You're the only first year that I know." Like I was the only one that he was aware of, just because I had gone through the effort of just going up to him and being like, "Hi." And so we started. I was the one who completely refused to take part in doing another singer-songwriter night because I felt like Berlin had plenty. So we decided to start a kind of more like rock indie night. The idea originally was to get students out of what I like to call the BIMM bubble. I feel like very often BIMM students tend to make music with other BIMM students for other BIMM students. You're not really getting to know other bands. Your music isn't really getting an audience outside of that. So the concept was using my very limited, honestly, very limited contacts in Berlin. We'd have one local band and two BIMM bands playing. And we started at this really shitty venue called IPA Bar. The sound was awful. It was really small and always got super packed. And we were there for, I think 3 editions, like 3 months. And then we got to move to a lovely venue called Marie Antoinette. And we ran it there for a good year before then getting a grant. And then, so the people who originally started this, we were 4 of us. It was people who were then in second year, which was Joel and Eva. And then me and Chloe were first year. So the 4 of us started this. And that's Joel, Shani, Eva, Lawrence, and Chloe Astruc, if any people know these people. But after 1 year, basically, Chloe and I had just taken it over, and we ended up actually partnering with people that were called Indie Berlin, which was a blog at the time, and we ended up starting an events company with them, where we kind of took Basement Bash, which was this concert series, to another level. It ran for 2.5 years. We got funding from Music Board Berlin. So by the last year that we had it, we first moved to Auster Club, which is by Markthalle 9 or underneath Markthalle 9. But then there was some noise issues. So then we got to move to Urban Spree, which was a lot of fun. That's one of my favorite venues in Berlin. And by that time, we had progressed to having 1 touring band and 2 local bands. We tried to book BIMM bands as much as we could, but we had just kind of booked all of them. So some bands we booked more than once throughout the whole thing. I think Asker's Dodge probably played 3 or 4 times. But yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I learned a lot by doing. And it's the same thing as I was saying earlier with this Midsommar Festival that I did. I would definitely always recommend anyone who's looking to make it anywhere in the music industry is I've always approached life in a way that when I get an opportunity that I'm not sure if I can handle, I say yes, and then I figure it out on the way. Because organizing a festival, running a concert series, these are all they're difficult things. You need hard work and organization and dedication, but it's still like it's not rocket science. You can just, there's so many things that seem so insurmountable, and I'm sure even planning this conference seemed like that in at some point. But if you just take, okay, we're gonna organize a concert, what do we need to do, and you just break it down. And if there's anything I can really recommend to people is don't look at what you don't know as a weakness, look at it as an opportunity. So I think I spent way too much of my 20s thinking about how I needed to know everything before I even started. And there's something that by just doing shit and working with a lot of people, realizing that no one really knows what they're doing, that it's really, really good to just be like, okay, what do I know? Because you know a lot more than you think you do. Breaking it down and realizing, okay, I actually don't know how to do online marketing. I don't know how to order a backline. I don't know how to, use a ticketing app, whatever. But then there will be people who know, and having the guts to just say, yeah, I don't know how to do that. Can you help me? And getting in touch with the people know. I think that's really brave. And I think that's something that a lot of people would look up to, having the capability of doing that. So yeah, I ran Basement Bash, I did Midsummer, and then part of my final project at BIMM was I developed a series of workshops called "You've Made the Music, Now What?" Because I was a bit shocked because of course, most of my friends at BIMM ended up being music business students as well, or quite a lot of them. But I also made a bunch of friends with, people from songwriting and from, more music based studies. And I was quite shocked how little my musician friends knew about the music industry, just simple things about, who does what, what's which position, what's the difference between a publisher and a label, what's, how do people work together? What are the things that you can do to prepare yourself as a musician? This is something that I'm still doing to this day, teaching workshops and doing consultations with people about, what to put in your EPK, what should your EPK look like, what to put in your one sheet, um, how to contact people. I literally teach people how to write an email. And most of this is something that I learned while I was at BIMM. Some of it, of course, has come from experience. I would say I got the foundations at BIMM for sure. I got the knowledge. A lot of it is just lifted from Joe Sparrow's lectures. I mean, not literally, but it's the information I got from him a lot. And basically, I got the knowledge there, and then I got a lot of that confirmed with the years that I've been working in the music industry. One of the wait, let me see. We had some talking points here that I just want to make sure that I'm not forgetting anything. So yeah, if I just finish talking about myself, because of course everyone's here at 10 a.m. to hear me talking about my own ass. Basically, I started after school, I started working at an events agency that dealt more with corporate events. I was offered the job because I had since I started, I lived, like, okay, you're going to realize I worked a lot. I was broke a lot. So I worked a lot while I was living in Berlin. But I had done some freelance events planning and like tour guiding and hosting and stuff like that when I had just moved to Berlin for this company that's specified in getting Scandinavian work groups to Germany. And basically, I had always done like events because it paid well on the side for that. And I was offered a job as senior project manager there. And I started that actually before I finished my degree. I was working 50% there and writing my bachelor's at the same time. And that was good. It was just over a year that I managed to work there until COVID hit, that I was working there full time. I was a little bit burnt out after 2.5 years of Basement Bash, where we never we never paid ourselves any money. It was all, all the money we made always went into, just running the series and expanding it. As well, I was kind of ready to take on something a little bit more professional. So it was a really good experience going into a more corporate world. It was also, it was good to kind of see a little bit, how the work ethic is quite high and, get to kind of work in those spaces. But in a way, it was also really good for me to do that because it only took me about 6 months before I was like, I need to organize a concert. And I was really starting to miss the music industry and wanting to go back to that. And I'd already started, along with Chloe, we had started to plan turning Basement Bash into a one-day festival that would have been in the fall of 2020. But thank the Lord, we had only just started getting in touch with sponsors and things when COVID hit. Then I lost that job immediately, of course, when COVID hit, because there were no Scandinavian groups traveling to Germany. And then I activated a lot of my network. I just kept getting in touch with people, kept calling people, kept reaching out. And then this company that I had worked for, Nordic by Nature, that I had been doing quite a lot of things for example, this production manager for their one-day festival, they were looking to expand their operations from being just a PR agency and going into doing more of the things that I had done for them, which was one of those was teaching these workshops. I started working there. I got the job early summer, started working there in August. But my main position that I was hired for was also to be festival director for Midsommar 2021. Of course, that didn't happen. So we basically decided, I tried a bunch of things. We were doing a lot of conferences. We were doing a lot of workshops. I started a podcast called Better Independent. There's a few, we managed to release, I think, about 12 episodes. They're quite useful if you guys want to. I basically just interviewed a bunch of industry people, two of which I think were BIMM tutors at some point. Lee Cohen, who is Marco's business manager, and Jessica Pratt's manager. And Joe Sparrow. I think he was the first episode that came out. We were talking about monetizing your music online. There's some good interviews in there. So if you guys want to check it out, it's called Better Independent, and it's still on Spotify. I think we're still releasing episodes only just a few weeks ago. So yeah, I moved back to Iceland in December. It was a very quick decision, but I couldn't quite handle the lockdown, and knowing that I come from a country that had actually started to open things up quite a lot again, I decided that that's what I needed. After also well over 6 years in Berlin, I was ready to try something else. I hadn't planned on moving back home, but that worked out to be, something great. And now I've decided to kind of bet on myself. It kind of happened by accident. So I moved back home, and again, this is I had no idea what I wanted to do. I didn't have a job. I, found an apartment through some family, and I was just like, fuck, no idea what I'm going to do. So it's just a question of activating your network. It's just getting in touch with people, because you will know people. And I was lucky enough that in Iceland, a lot of people that I had known from all over the world had moved back home. So I got to get in touch with, I just, started, seeking out people, just saying like, hey, I don't really have a lot going on these days. Do you want to meet for coffee? And just kind of telling people what it is that I had been doing, asking them what they were doing. And that's how, within just a few, within the last month, I've launched my own agency called OK Agency. It's called OK Agency, but the website's okagency.is. If you guys are interested, the website is, there's one in English, one in Icelandic. And there I basically had gotten in touch with a girl here who was, because of also COVID, there are a lot of interesting things happening because of COVID. Because of COVID, one girl who's quite a big pop star here, who has a publishing contract with Cobalt and has been working as a songwriter for other people. She started her own little kind of creative college here. And I'm now, starting next Tuesday, I'm teaching a 4-week course for people on basically all of the things that I had mentioned before. This is something that it's all the information that I've gathered this over the years. A lot of it's based on my final project from BIMM, actually, from 2 years ago now. And it's basically, I'm just going to be kind of teaching musicians, how, because the Icelandic music industry, understandably, is quite small, and there isn't as much professionalization or standardization. There's quite a lot of one person doing the job of maybe 4 or 5 people in the big world, especially in Germany, where everything is quite standardized, and also the music industry is quite huge. I mean, I'm sure you guys know this, but Germany is the 3rd biggest music market in the world, the biggest one in Europe. Only Japan and the US succeeded. So I'm going to be teaching people basically how the music industry functions, how it hangs together, who works with who and why. And also going to be doing an EPK workshop, helping people figure out what their unique selling point is, what their target audience is, this kind of more basic marketing concepts. But I definitely think that a lot of musicians sometimes have a hard time, kind of taking a step back from their passion projects and thinking of their creative product, creative output, as a marketable product. So that's something that is really exciting to see come into fruition, because I literally got the feedback on my final project at BIMM being I don't know how feasible this is. I don't know how sustainable it will be for you to actually get people to pay for this. And now 2 years later, it took 2 years for me to do it, like a open market thing. I've done these workshops for special projects where people, where they didn't pay themselves, but I am managing to do that now. Also part of the agency that I launched is just consulting. So basically, all of like if you want to be a manager, like if you want to get a manager and if you want to be a manager, usually the idea is that you get 10%, you get 20% of all the income. It's kind of hard, and I did kind of learn this by experience. That I tried to manage some bands, which basically they were. Both of us should have known they were way too early on in their careers to get managed because they didn't even have any recorded music, so that's kind of hard to manage. But it's also it's really hard to do something for no money if you're not, unless you're really getting a lot of experience out of it. And it's really hard to get 20% of a band that's not actually making any money. So my idea is that, a lot of artists also, I believe, think that they really need to have a manager. What they actually just need is they just need some advice, and they just need a little bit of like, you just need someone who knows a lot about the industry to just be a sounding board. So what I've basically been doing with a lot of artists here is just, either I'm meeting up with them just one time, or I'm doing like, once every 2 weeks. You're just meeting up for like a consultation. So it's basically just like a checkup, and they pay me per hour. Like I take a fee. And then of course, I'll follow up with that and stuff, but it just means that I'm more invested because I'm actually getting paid. But it's also, it's just there's a more clear and precise thing of like, what am I doing for them? Because I'm just their consultant. I'm not just like a friend who's managing them. So then through that, just to finish off, I realized that there's no one who does PR in Iceland, and I have some experience of doing PR, but not a lot. But that's another thing of, like being aware and keeping your eyes open. Music PR is not a thing here really, because it's a really small market. So a lot of people just, call up the calling up the different newspapers or something, or they just have some contacts or something. So I've just now started, like I'm like have 3 PR campaigns that I'm running now because no one was doing it, and I was just like, sure, I think I can do it. So basically, I think it's important for anyone who is looking to see what would be your opportunities once you finish school, because I know this is something that people are quite worried about, especially in today's climate. There are still a lot of opportunities. There are a lot of things you can still do by just being proactive. One example is just yesterday morning, I went to an open panel that was organized by, I think, the Nordic Music Export. So it was like an international event. It was just a Facebook event, and it was a conference on Zoom. I have no idea how many people attended, but there were basically, it was the Icelandic Music Export interviewing guys who was an Irish guy, I think, rather than a Scottish guy, and an Icelandic guy who's lived in LA for like 20 years, and they're both from the film composing world. One of them like worked under Hans Zimmer for a long time. So these are like people that are like way out of my, they're like, in the terms of like fancy people, like I don't know them at all. They had this conference yesterday, and I woke up super early. It was there also at 8 a.m. because it was 10 a.m. in Berlin. So I did an Instagram story of the fact that I was there. I tagged everyone involved. I followed everyone involved. One of the guys who runs the talk was about this new music scoring publishing company. One of the guys ended up following me back because I do have, like, on my page, I have that I'm a music industry consultant. And then as soon as he followed me back, I sent him a message being like, hey, like, great to get in touch with you. I'm just, I've only just moved back. I'm still figuring out who the key players are. And now I'm going to be meeting them for coffee next week. So there's a lot of these, and of course this could be translated into a Zoom call. There's a lot of, being a little bit daring, and also realizing that, people are interested in knowing what you're doing. People like getting attention. There's, I've gotten in touch with several agencies and things here, just being like, hi, I'm Anna. I just moved back. I don't know how the Icelandic music industry really functions. I'd love to meet up and figure out what it is that you're doing. And I think people really enjoy it when you are a bit honest about saying just like, hey, I don't know something, but I think you might know it. I always try also when people ask me for those kinds of things, I try to always say yes. I've met with countless Icelandic people who are like wondering whether they should go study at BIMM. And for example, like I did that, I don't know, a year and a half ago. Some guy who was like, we went to high school together. He's a few years younger than me. I met up with him for a coffee, told him what my experience with BIMM was. And then a few weeks ago, he got in touch with me and said like, hey, I'm now, I didn't go to BIMM. I studied here instead. He's a music producer and he's working with a rapper that I'm now doing a 5-month campaign for. So it's like all those things. Like I planted that seed over a year ago, and now when that person thought about someone in the music industry that could help them out, they got in touch with me, and then we figured out a way we could work together. So I just want to really, I know of like I'm probably repeating myself, just like be proactive. Like never, you know, don't think too much about embarrassing yourself or that someone doesn't want to talk to you or something like that. I think it's just important that to quote a wonderful Dolly Parton, because I try to quote her at any given time I can. She said, figure out who you are and do it on purpose. And I think it's really important to be aware of, you know, what it is that you're doing, what it is, like I said earlier, don't think of what you don't know as a weakness, think of it as an opportunity. If you realize, at the moment you realize what it is that you don't know, that means that you can then find people who do know that, and then you can go and contact them and you can learn from them or get their help, or you can start, you know, collaborating, something like that. I think it's really important to try and be proactive. I think it's just to say that for the 100th time, I think it's good to, like, you know, be aware, like, even though it's COVID, you know, you could even start then looking more internationally. It's a great way to get in touch with a lot of people. Like I managed to get some people like I interviewed some really cool people for this podcast that I did last year, just because people were bored. Because people were stuck at home. Also, I organized some panels and things, and I got some people to be attendees on those panels just because they didn't have a reason to say no because they were stuck in their houses. So just be aware that, like, even though this is a really scary time, the music industry it's suffering, it's struggling. There are still things going on. There are still ways, you know, everyone is struggling together. We're all looking for ways to kind of, you know, figure out something new, figure out, you know, how to kind of move forward. And I literally have now built a career on kind of, you know, by talking to my friends and realizing what they don't know. So I would recommend that you kind of look around and see, like, if there's something you feel is missing right now, maybe you can be the one that starts it. Maybe you can be the one who starts reaching out to people or starting something with your friends. I think it's just a question of like trying to think in solutions rather than in problems, I know it's really hard to be hopeful right now. I know it's really hard to foresee any kind of sustainable future, but you know, people are still listening to music. People are still making music. So it's just a thing for us to figure out how to organize around that and how to bring the people what they actually want. I think that's it for me talking continuously. If there's any questions or anything. I just got a question of how to live in Berlin. Do you mean as in how I moved to Berlin? Or, yeah, so I am from Iceland, so there was no visa or any problem like that. So I can't really speak on that a lot. I think it's important to, whenever you move to Berlin, to make sure that when you arrive, that you maybe have some temporary housing, and then you have time to kind of look around and find a proper apartment, because it's kind of hard to do online unless you get one of these, you know, apartments that have furniture and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think definitely if you get in touch with your embassy or something, if you don't have, because if you're within Schengen, it's quite easy. You just book a ticket and do it. If there's any other questions. So is there anything maybe in specific that you're wondering whether you should do, or I don't know, something more specific about how I used BIMM to get somewhere? Yeah. I think that's something that I definitely would recommend. Like a lot of what I've managed to do with my very small and career is a lot of it was based on, you know, asking for help from teachers at BIM. I definitely used them as a resource. I very often when I was like organizing Basement Bash and all that stuff, I definitely made sure to always reach out to teachers, try and get their feedback, try and get their help on a lot of the subject, a lot of the problems that I was facing. Like that's one of the beauties about BIM. It's one of the best reasons to go to BIM is our teachers are actual people working in the music industry. Like they're not people who did it 30 years ago and haven't worked in it since. I remember Charlie was head of music business when I was there, and he kept having to teach us from the road because he was always going on tour. And I know it annoyed some people, but I actually loved that. I loved that I was being taught by someone who was actually living in the music industry. So I think it's really good to, kind of nourish those relationships, get to know your teachers, use all of the private consulting times that you can, try to meet up with them, talk about, what it is that you're thinking. Sorry, I just found the Q&A button. So sorry. I have not invested any money in the starting my business at the moment. I did invest money when I started the company around Indie Berlin. We didn't start a GmbH because that is quite, I think you need like 20,000 euros or something. It's quite a lot of money. But we did like a limited liability company. There were other people. Sorry, someone's talking to me. Okay, sorry. I thought I had until quarter 2. That is the Donald Passman book behind me. Yes, I did invest music money in my business. How can we make connections to get out there? Yes, I think it's definitely trying to get into all of these panels, try to take part in all of the online conferences that are going on. People who are struggling to speak German, I would say that there are plenty of international opportunities. I think that's definitely something that you can look into. There are so many different companies that are working in English. I never really learned German to the point where I could really speak German, but I would definitely recommend trying to learn German if you can. Sorry, guys, I thought I would have 15 minutes to answer questions. I thought I would speak for half an hour and then have 15 minutes to answer the questions. I guess we need to close off, Marina.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. But yeah, the main thing I would just say is if anyone wants to get in touch, then just send me an email at anna@okayagency.is. Find me on LinkedIn, find me on Instagram or something like that. And I hope that you learned something. Mostly just try to be as proactive as you can. Try and find all the things that you can online. And yes, the Donald Passman book is very useful. Also, events management. Thanks so much for asking me and to do this. And yeah, if anyone wants to get in touch, then I am in Iceland, but I have internet connection.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. It was super helpful, super cool. So now we're welcoming our second guest, which is Nok and Nguyen. And yeah, please introduce yourself and tell us about what you do.